Hey guys, this is Nick with Cymatics, and welcome to the video in which we're going to be arranging our beat. We have it mixed basically, and let me just play you what we have so far. So it sounds pretty good, but we can begin arranging. And arrangement is basically just bringing elements of your beat in and out in order to keep things interesting and have something approximating the full length of an actual beat, of a song, rather. So typically what I do is I kind of start with the melody. You can do many different things to make the melody a bit different than it would sound in the actual kind of drums part of the beat. By that I mean, I don't always have the melody just play by itself like this. I usually modify it in some way to make it a bit more interesting. But before we do that, let's just create some markers 808. Then the 808 would come in with a full version of the melody and the rest of the drums. And then I would leave aside the kick. So let me just play for you what we have so far. Cool. So what I'm going to do instead is we can try using a halftime or gross beat and turn it on and off throughout the beat. And I'm just going to use this power button here. You can also automate the actual plugin. The problem is, when you halftime, typically you have a lot more low-end information, obviously, because you're transposing everything an octave down. So you're going to have a lot of low-end rumbling that's introduced by the halftime. So what I do is, if I have this automated to be on during the intro and off during the drop, whoops, like so. So during the drop it's off, and during the drop it's on. I'm also going to use an EQ, a separate EQ, to cut out the bass that I introduced with the halftime. And you do this kind of by ear, so let's just play. That's a bit too much of the subs cut out, so I'm going to use a bit shallower filter curve. That makes it so when the 808 comes in, it sounds really deep and really bassy. And that will allow the drop to have more impact, the drums to have more impact. What I'm going to do is run the 808 alone during the drop portion, and then bring the kick in separately. So right now, I don't want to have the kick in the beginning, because that I'm kind of wasting an opportunity to increase the energy of the beat again, because the kick will bring on a whole new energy to the beat, right? I don't want to just give it away. It's kind of like telling a good story or a good joke. You don't want to give away the punchline right away. You want to build up to it. So far, this is what we have. Whoops, I deleted both. Yeah, there we go. So, and then I would repeat this. This would be 4 bars. I'd repeat this to be 8 bars. And then I'd bring the kick in after those 8 bars. And what you can also do along with the kick to kind of grow the energy is by having all of your kind of other percussion elements, like different hi-hats, open hats, stuff like that. You can have them not play in the intro or the first part of the beat, of the drop, so to speak. So maybe this hi-hat track that we have, that could be taken out in during the portion of the beat where we just have the 808 and we're just introducing the full melody and drums. So it would sound like this. Another thing we can do is to kind of signify each phase of our beat is not have the cymbal come in every single 4 bars. So notice how the intensity just goes up right away. It goes up due to the kick and the hi-hat. So you want to kind of distribute The percussion, the kick, your 808s as well. You can have maybe a different pattern for the 808 on this part, on the first introduction part, and then when everything comes to fever pitch, so to speak, you want like a different pattern for the 808. It's all about kind of building tension and releasing tension. So at this point in the beat, we have maximum tension, basically maximum tension in the arrangement. We're very everything is playing at the same time. It's the highest energy part of the song. So then we want to follow it with kind of a verse section. So this would kind of be like a hook. And then for the verse, we can do two things. We can use we can actually just use the halftime version of the loop. That'll also include the EQ'd version. So notice how I think we forgot to automate this. So I want to automate it to only be on for the halftime versions so that the high pass filter doesn't cut out any bass that we need for the actual loop. Okay, so now that we have this half-timed loop here, we can then copy the drums from the intro, which is basically just everything minus the second hat and minus the kick. And that'll give us a kind of a more mellowed version of the beat for like a kind of a verse, because it has less elements. It's easier to rap over and things like that. Also, when you halftime something, it just automatically creates more space for higher range elements in the mix. So if you have a vocal, a rap vocal, or any other kind of vocal for that matter, that's performing a kind of like a lyrical passage or something, it's going to be a lot easier to hear that passage if the loop or the sample is either half-timed or filtered with a low pass filter. Which is also kind of what halftime does. Halftime does low pass the signal a little bit. So I'm just going to repeat this format here with this. And then what you can also do is then have the kicks come in here. As well as the second hi-hat track. And then what you could also do is, since we haven't heard the melody for a while after this kind of halftime passage, I typically bring it back to the original loop without the halftime and just let it play on its own for a bit. So far we have like 8 bars, 8 bars of our kind of high pitch loop, 8 bars of our halftime loop. And then we're just going to play this with nothing to build suspense, so it would sound like this. And then this is kind of replacing this section if we were to just loop everything, but we can just have it without the 808s, without the drums. That way, when it comes in, when the drums come in, we'll come in with the kick already. So we're just copying this section with the kick and without the kick. But for the first section, we're only going to have the loop and nothing else. So that to keep up the timing of the entire arrangement, when the second phrase comes in, it'll have the kick. And let me just show you what I mean. So it's going to like drop into a very high energy part of the song, into like the hook. And this is kind of like the pre-hook. And it'll come in already with the kicks. Again, a high energy portion of the song for a hook. And then for verse number 2, we can just rinse and repeat, like so. Right. So those are a few tips of how to, get a bare bones arrangement of your beat going. just to kind of have every relevant section. You have like an intro, you have a hook, you have a verse part, then you have like a developing part or a bridge to a repetition of the hook, and then a verse again, and so on. And you can vary them from time to time, but generally speaking, if you're gonna have a rapper on a beat like this is typically what they look for, is different sections. So I hope you guys learned something from this and enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.